Hello, is anybody there? Hello, Larry. I hope you're there.
Well, hello.
Hey there.
You must be Nancy.
I sure am. Are you Larry?
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm not a fake Larry. I'm a real Larry, and you're a real, and your full
I'm
name,
a real Nancy. Yeah,
Nancy, and your last name?
as Holmes.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself to begin with.
Well, I retired from the Boeing company. I returned as an employee there as a contractor and
For which
certified
for which company?
Boeing company aircraft
Boeing,
type.
the airline company. What
Yeah.
did you do for them?
Well, I did a lot of things. I started out as an hourly employee, and they helped pay for part of my education, and I became an engineer.
Hmm.
And I helped certify the last 787 was my last project I worked on.
Uh-huh. Well, very good. And where were you born and what cities have you lived in?
Well, I was born in Seattle, Washington, and I've lived in Seattle, Washington. I've visited a lot of places, but I've really only lived here, and it's been my life here.
Well,
So
can you tell me what do you like? What did you like about your job and what did you not like about your job?
politics is always an issue in any job, any place. But I
Eh,
like the idea of creating something that was going to fly and serve others. And I did everything from just being a grunt to being an instructor and a manager and on the flight line and flight test. So it was like you could move around in the company, you could do a lot of things and you didn't have to leave town.
Huh. Well, and so partly this is for future generations to be able to watch as well as for people now. But for those that don't know what type of politics can go on in a company, what type of politics were they? Were they like who's boss of who or
Lots
gossip?
of people have their own agenda they want to get ahead, and so they will do things that either makes them look good or if they make a mistake, it makes them look bad. But they always play games and they always try to butter up to you while you have the power. The minute you don't see them again.
You, the minute you don't, you what?
You don't see them anymore.
Yeah, that's funny. Do they also try to make you look bad sometimes so they look better?
Yes, they've done it several times.
Hmm,
I get reassigned all of a sudden and nobody will talk to you. You always know somebody did something to you.
that's crazy. And I guess you don't always know who is stabbing you in the back, or do you?
No, I don't always know.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because after I'd left the company, one of the guys that did uh, apologized to me. And he said, and they ended up going back to the way I had originally set it up. And they lost almost 2 years in the design field that way.
Wow.
Then a couple other guys that did try to do that thought they would get ahead, and they still have the same jobs at the same level and have never advanced.
Interesting.
What goes
Well,
around comes around sometimes.
yeah. Well, so like what lessons have you learned? I guess that's one of the lessons, but what lessons have you learned in life and on the job?
On the job, you have a mentor, and a mentor can help you a lot. And to this day, one of them is still a friend, even after we've all retired.
So the lesson you learned is look for a mentor can be helpful to you and make a difference, I guess.
It can, yes, and because you know nobody does their career alone, and if they think they did, they're wrong. Because there's people along the way that do little things, small little things. Sometimes they don't even realize how much they helped you.
Hmm. To switch gears a little bit, what were some of the big news events in your lifetime and did they affect you?
Well, I was born during the wartime, and my family moved out
What
here
what,
from.
what year were you born in?
I was born in 1943.
And how did it affect you and your family? The war?
Well, my family originated in Glasgow, Montana, but there was nothing to support them, so they came out here. My dad did first, and then my mom came out and they got married, and I was born here. And then eventually, all my dad's side of the family moved out here too.
And so back to the question, what big news events were in your lifetime? I did the World War II affect you, or how would you say it affected you?
Well, the Boeing company became a defense builder at that time,
Hmm.
and they really pushed the bond program to save money. You know, people do savings bonds and everything. They promoted you doing that, and I was a small child at that time, and I became the poster child for Boeing for bonds at that time.
Oh, that's fun.
And then I was alive during the time when Kennedy was assassinated, and I was pregnant with my first child then, and I cried for days. It was very traumatic for me to see us lose a president like that.
Many people remember where they were when they heard the news. Do you?
I was at home, and it was very hard for me. You know, I think a lot of people have that same memory. And then the Mount St. Helens eruption, I know where I was with that one too. I was
Yeah. Were you affected by it?
It's everything in that we had was covered with dust,
Really?
volcanic dust, and we couldn't do anything electronically or anything. And I was a manager at that time, and the plant was like deadly still too. And so until we could clean up all the dust, we put covers over everything, and so it
How
was an
far away?
interesting.
How far away was it from you?
It's probably a couple hundred miles, but when it blew dust, a big dust cloud that covered this area and also traveled across the United States, got into the Midwest, some of the dust did. And they made jewelry out of it and all sorts of stuff out of the dust.
Really? Huh. Do you know if it was I don't recall, was it a surprise explosion of Mount St. Helens
It
volcano?
happened on a Sunday when there were fewer people on the mountain, um, but they did know it was going to erupt. They had different reporters even camped out around the rim, and one of them said, "This is it." His last name was Johnson, and he became part of the dust of the whole thing because the trees all blew over and looked like toothpicks laying flat, totally gray, and the rivers rose, tearing houses out and going down the river.
How did the trees get bent over? Was it from a wind or a
The
fire?
explosion, the
Oh, the,
explosion when it went off. I mean, it was massive wind came out of it too, and dust all the way into the Seattle area.
hmm. What other big news events in your lifetime?
I remember where I was when all the towers went down.
Where were you?
I was at work and my crew just we had and there had TV sets around, you know, that you use safety films and stuff on. They went to a live broadcast. You could have heard a pin dropped in the middle of that factory. It was, and everybody was affected by that. So,
How would you say you were affected?
um, I had to take care of my people,
Hmm.
and so we had to make sure everybody was safe and everything. And then we had some major earthquakes, and part of the buildings caved in. And it happened at lunchtime when that happened, when we had the big earthquake up here. The roof caved in. I had brand new employees, and I was on the freeway coming down to from Everett to Renton, where I was stationed at. And we in 3 days they had us back up and running. They had to get us all brand new computers and phones and everything, and it was amazing. IBM and HP stepped up and helped us a lot.
Hmm. Wow. So, were you driving, you say, when the earthquake happened?
Yeah, and it was like I thought something was happening. We were getting a flat tire, so you just never know.
Yeah.
And so we got to the plant, and everybody was scurrying everywhere, and I had to sneak into my department up the stairs, and the stairs had started to pull away from the wall, so it was very unsafe. And so eventually there was one staircase that was able, but I needed to get my car keys and my purse and stuff because I couldn't leave. without my car keys to get my car to go. And no flight, there was no traffic lights, there were no nothing. So, everybody had to take their turn and get on the freeway. And when I finally got home, my house, it looked like an explosion happened inside of it. Stuff that you have too many on your shelf for your dishes and stuff. Spaghetti sauce bottle broke, exploded and hit the ceiling, everything. It was a disgusting mess.
Do people come together? Is your experience that people come together some when there's a tragedy or a catastrophe?
At times, it depends on which ones it were. There's people that are more generous with their time and think that's important. And I do today. I did that. But there's some people that just wanted to go on with life,
So you sometimes learn a different aspect of a person when there's a stressful happening.
right?
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about some of your family members. Were you married and what? Tell me about some of your family members.
Well, my mom and dad were from Glasgow, Montana, and my dad came out to go to work for Boeing and build B-52s.
And
And
their
then my brothers and uncles come out.
and what were their names?
Chalmer or C.G. Curly Witherby was my dad, and Esther Mae Dasher was my mother. And she was a homekeeper. She never worked other than taking care of people. And my dad went on and into politics, and he made a choice to try to do something better for his community. Is how he went into politics, and he learned a lot of lessons along the way there. And then I'm the
To
oldest of
back
six kids.
oh,
But
six kids, but to back up, what lessons do you think your dad learned, and what political points of view did he have?
well, he was the floor majority speaker of the House. He was a Democrat, and compromises. I think the thing that's taught politics is, everybody wants to have their bills submitted and want to have them passed. Well, and you have to promote the bill. And to do that, you have to promote some other bills that somebody else has. If you support my bill, I'll support your bill. And that's kind of
Interesting.
how Congress works even still today.
Yeah. And we'll get back to your family, but do you have any thoughts about the current national politics you'd like to share?
It's sad commentary. Our country is formed on doing a different type of life than I have right now. I don't think we take very good care of our veterans. I don't think we take very good care of our seniors. And everybody, is having their life, and they should. And I want us to be a safe country, but we need to keep our word when we make promises.
Hmm, nice. So back to your family. Who are your siblings?
Well, I am the oldest of six, and I have a brother Craig, who's like 9 years younger than I am. Then I have sister Betty, it's a couple years younger, a sister Kathy, and then a stepbrother Dwayne, who lives in France now, but he was an attorney and an appellate judge. And then I have a stepsister Diane, who still lives in the area. And so I'm very proud of my family. We still get together for birthdays. Whenever your birthday is, we go have lunch together, and we still maintain that family contact.
Why would you say families are important to have?
Well, they're part of your base. They're who you are in a lot of ways because they created you as a child out of love, and they supported you in what you do. My dad, I'm being the oldest, and I was the first grandchild to both of my parents' families. And so I got a little bit spoiled when I was little, like a lot of first grandchildren do. But also the anticipation of what they wanted me to be in my future.
Hmm,
My dad, was one of five brothers, and my mom was one of three, and she was the oldest. And so uh, her family stayed on the homestead and still farmed for years. And
really?
and the farm is still in the family back there.
What did they farm?
Well, that's a good point because Milk River, which was by Glasgow, Montana, which is where it is, and the crops could be wheat one year, and they would rotate because of the condition of the ground. You have to rotate which fields you use, so they have a dormant year and whatever. So, and they had a small little farmhouse. I remember the fruit cellar where they saved stuff for the winter, and but there was it was only one bedroom, and they raised three kids in it. I was amazed.
Wow. Okay.
So I have a cousin that lives on the property now and bought it, and he raised up the ground where he put his home. He rebuilt a home on it, so the flood doesn't flood his house anymore.
Oh, that's good. Um, what were some of what was a turning point or two in your life, would you say?
Um, when I lost a child,
Mm. And how did it affect you?
well, you put your priorities differently because you want more time with certain people, and what you do, you want to make it a positive thing. You want it to be something that makes the world a better place. You you leave your mark on the world by how you care for people and how you take care of them and the products you develop.
What were the circumstances of how you lost your child?
He was born with birth defect and didn't survive.
Uh, was he quite young when he died?
He was an infant,
Gotcha.
but
Oh,
he was still a person, and he didn't cry. It was interesting
hmm.
when he only lived a few months, and he didn't really cry, and it really made me be amazed at my kids that I have two sons and some stepkids in there, and so and both of my sons are one lives in Holland now, married a girl from there and works there, and he's getting close to retirement age now, and then my other son Dale lives in Tennessee, and he used to be in a wheelchair like his father was. He had rheumatoid arthritis of the spine, and he started diving and swimming, and it gave him freedom in the water, and he eventually was able to start walking regular, and then he became an EMT because he became a rescue diver and helped certify swim teams for fire departments and police departments, and so they made him an EMT and paid for it, and so to me that's a miracle of of somebody looking over him and helping him from being in a wheelchair because he had arthritis in the spinal cord, where he really could hardly move, and to be able to walk. He says, "Well, what do you do with the pain?" He says, "I just take a couple Tylenol," and so he just like pushed through it. He does the stair climb every year. I'm really proud of him for how he made himself a better person. And that's the lesson I think we could all take.
Were you married a couple of times? And if so,
Oh yes.
how did you
I
meet your husbands and who were they?
Well, my first husband was James DeBoer, and I met him at the Seattle's World's Fair, and
Were you in
he
line or
also,
something? How,
pardon?
how, how did you meet him at the fair?
Well, he was a supervisor over all the busboys in the food circus. You have a big, huge area. You can go get chicken or fish or whatever you wanted, and he supervised all the guys. And so he decided he wanted to talk to me, and so he just kept coming into the $1 million display that I worked in. There was a million silver dollars in this big display, and people would come look at it, have their pictures taken with it, etc. He'd come see me every night,
And then from there, he
and
developed
we
a
married just before the fair ended.
nice.
And we had two sons, and Kennedy assassination was during that marriage, and so it was hard. And then he had a little problem with drinking, and I made a decision that I was not going to raise my children in that atmosphere. And so, and he became a different person. When he started drinking and stuff, and so anyway, so then I became a single mom, went to school and got my degree, and met my second husband through a friend.
Did you what did you learn in school, and did that help you get your Boeing job?
Yeah, I wanted, my dad wanted me to be a teacher, and I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to fly. I still want to fly. That's never gone, but I'm a
Have
little too
you
old to be an astronaut now.
have you flown?
Yeah, I was doing touch and goes and etc. to get my pilot's license with a friend that passed away a few years back, and so when you work for the Boeing company, they have all these assets and all these interests of other people. So they form different organizations and clubs, and you can go to those. And you can, like, if you want to get your pilot's license, you can go through the flying club, and they help you get through the ground school stuff, and then you pay for rental of an airplane by the hour. And I had a friend who did happen to own a plane, and so he was helping me too. It
Did you
never
have any
quite worked out.
did you have any close calls
Close calls. I did
flying?
driving.
Oh, and driving? Like, tell me what happened.
Well, there was a huge major accident, and the car rolled over, and the battery flew through the air, missed my car by about an inch. And
Wow,
I thought that was, and I thought somebody was looking out for me at that point. I said some prayers that night.
nice. And may I ask you, what is your religion and your spiritual
I
practice?
am a Christian, and my dad was a Lutheran. I've gone to the Methodist Church, and I've gone to some other ones. I mean, and I like to study education, study religion sometimes, because there's so many different ones, and it's funny how many things they have in common that the ones I've checked out because I started doing that when I was a teenager.
Huh. Okay. And and how has it helped you in your life?
I think every day they help you. The relief, really, believing in a higher power gives you an unknown support in your life.
Hmm.
So you know you're not alone. You know that somebody is there monitoring what you're doing or what you're feeling. And I think anybody who believes in a higher power feels that.
And I guess that's comforting and helpful, huh?
Correct.
Nice. Let's see, comparing yourself to the average person, what would you say you're better at doing and worse at doing?
Oh, what I'm worse at is I'm not the immaculate housekeeper I wish I could be. It's not dirty, but I mean, not. It's a little cluttered at times.
I give you permission for that, but okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. And what would you say you're better at than the average person?
I like to cook. I also like people. I've always loved people. I like to watch people. We have a public market in downtown Seattle. It's called the Pike Place Market, and
Yeah.
it's been open markets for years. They have a space and stuff. And I worked in downtown Seattle for a few years. I would always go down and get fresh vegetables and fruit, and so I love to do that. And then we have local ones now in your little communities. Like I live probably 50 miles from Seattle. And I'm up on the hill on your way to Mount Rainier.
Hmm. What were some of the big technological changes in your life since you were born in 43?
Oh boy, party line telephones to cell
What,
phones.
what was a party line telephone?
Well, when you got a telephone, you shared it with other people. So the phone company didn't have enough private lines at that time, and they cost more.
So,
And
so
so,
what,
yeah,
you'd pick up the phone and you hear different conversations?
correct, you could.
And,
And
and
and then you just hang up. So when you pick it up next time, you've got a dial tone, you can make a call.
but otherwise, whoever was on the line it was their conversation.
Yeah, and I'm sure the boys enjoyed hearing the girls talk when they were on the phone too.
What other changes come to mind?
Well, computers and how we live with them today, and they're such a part of our life. Way back in the 60s, when I was a teenager, um, 45 records were like the thing. You bought your records of all the music that you loved and you played it. Now today, you just have a play tune list and you turn it on. But I still have some vinyl from way back when, and some 8 track and some regular tapes. And I have a unit that still plays all of those.
Oh, what was 8 track for those that don't know?
Well, it was a tape that mainly went into cars,
It
and
was a
you could
big
play some.
plastic thing, huh?
Yeah, it was about, oh, maybe 8 inches long and 6 inches across, and it had tape in it that recorded on it. And so, and then they went to smaller cassette tapes, and then they went to discs, and you know, and I still have some of all of them.
Who were some of the popular singers when you were young?
Well, Elvis was the first one that I bought, and the song was Teddy Bear, and I think it's one of his most famous songs. But and then there was Frankie Avalon and the Eagles and the Beach Boys, and I still listen to the Eagles today. They're still wonderful,
They are
but they're
good.
all getting older too, like we all are.
Are there any particular accomplishments that you're proud of?
My children, and I've been lucky enough to be considered outstanding for almost every job I've been in. So in fact, I have an award. I sent you a picture of. It's a black and white. I was one of the first women to become Man of the Month over the whole factory.
That's funny. You were one of the men of the month. That's
Yeah,
funny.
I've got. It took a picture with it when I got They had a placard. I got a place to park, special place to park, um, and it was on a big post on the. As you come through the gate, all the people that were awarded that same thing. And then eventually it became Employee of the Month, but it was Man of the Month in the beginning. Well, they didn't have that many women doing certain types of jobs, and I worked in the wire shop building wire harnesses for the airplanes, and there are a lot of women in that area, and the dexterity of your hands helps you build a better product.
Hmm. Did you feel much discrimination against women growing up?
A little, particularly at Boeing. The pay scale for men and the pay scale for women doing the same job were different, and there should have been no difference. And when I took over certain jobs and I had to be higher grade or manager, that anybody who worked for me had to have a lower grade. They couldn't make more money than me. So that became a problem because some of the new engineers, to enhance them to come to work for the company, their starting wage was more than I made.
Huh.
And I had been there for many years. And so they tried to do adjustments about it. And eventually the union stepped in and did a lot of work on that.
Hmm. So the union was helpful to you that way, huh?
Yes, at that point, I thought it was. Later on, when I was in more in management or senior lead type positions on projects, it was hard because you could only have a certain percentage of people in certain grades. They kind of did an evaluation of everybody had that same title, and you could only have 10% in the high, and you could only have 10% in the very bottom. And so how everybody was spread out was how they got jobs and how they got paid.
You mean like 10% women, or how would they divide it?
Well, they would everybody had a rate. For instance, if you were at the top of the pile, you got 100%. You're at the bottom, you got 10%. And they tried to do side by side comparisons of everybody who was in the top 10 because they could only have 10 people in the top 10.
Hmm.
So they would evaluate all of these people. And in the beginning, it's always the guys always got more money because
Um,
they considered the women to have another income from a husband, but not
hmm,
everybody was married. So, I mean, that's not always fair.
really. Um, to young people today, what would you say are ways to get ahead in work in your business? What approach should one take to do well in business?
Don't give up. And your
You
work
mean
ethics is number one.
what work
Work,
ethics?
ethics. I worked in flight tests and I was training new people. They're very smart, very capable. But at quitting time, they put the stuff in a drawer, locked it up, and went home. And I had a night crew waiting for what he was working on. I had to start over and do the whole job. They didn't understand the commitment of being responsible for something that affects other people. To me, that's your work ethics.
That's good. Well, let's see, a couple more questions. Do you have any favorite movies or books you'd like to share?
Oh God, there's so many. When I go any place, I like to buy those books that are now and then. It show you the community as it started to be formulated and grow. And it's interesting the pictures and things that you find out about whole location you live in. You had no idea there was like a log mill there or a big dance hall there, or the ships came in here and they delivered the stuff because Seattle is built on 7 hills, and it had an underground, and the tide came in, you better not be down there because the water would come in.
Yeah.
And so the bootleggers would come in with liquor and stuff, just like every area has had bootleggers in the beginning. And this was also a stepping stone to go to Alaska during the gold rush. And so some of the notorious things that happened in Seattle were quite interesting. So, you know, like this one story about in downtown Seattle, there's a guy that was famous being a store, had a store, but carried big guns, and nobody had ever robbed him because he had big guns.
Hmm.
And he was known to be the best shot in town.
Huh.
Well, somebody else was having issues with him, and they had a shootout. And the guy that had the big reputation didn't have a gun, and so they didn't know whether to charge him. But they said they let him go because he was known to be a better shot.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is, and there's a lot of stories like that, and the speakeasies and the hotel to the courthouse. There was a kind of a bridge to the building from above, and at lunchtime they'd go over and seek the ladies out, then come back and go to work. And one of the wives got upset and she blew up the bridge.
Really? That's crazy. How'd she blow it up?
I have no idea. That's the story.
Okay, that's a good story.
But I
Um,
also, there's a lot of things that happen in your lifetime, and you meet lots of nice people. And um, working for children's hospital charities, I was part of a guild for children's hospitals called Sovereign. It's Society of Vintage Race Enthusiasts. And we did a race at the raceway up here during the 4th of July weekend for 20, 30 years to raise money for Children's Hospital. And we'd always feature a different car every year. So we got to see beautiful cars. And they could, and the whole society is they would restore old vintage race cars. And they had to be a real race car to be even eligible to be in it. And they would go do laps around the track and etc. and win awards and stuff. But it was fun, and people would pay to come in, and we'd see famous race drivers, and we got to meet them all, and they were so nice, and it helped us raise a lot of money. And I did that for 30 years, and I was president of that group for about 4 years. So I was real proud of the fact that we had the number one fundraising project in our county at the time, and we had some beautiful families that would come out and spend their vacations doing that event, and so as well did mine. And a couple of mine are still doing it.
nice.
And
Uh,
that's how I met Bonnie. And I met in school, grade school. And so she and I have been friends forever.
I know she's been into cars too.
Yes.
Yes.
So and then homeowner association lived on the lake, and so everybody comes and bitches at you or complains at you, and so You have to be a good listener to be a good leader.
Oh, that's a good point. Good point. Well, is
Yeah.
there anything else you'd like to say or talk about in last question?
Wow, that's a good question. Um, I'm proud of my family and what they've done and what they're going through. Um, and my friends have been a safeguard to me, because I live in this area because my friends are around there, but we're all about the same age. So to be able to do something like physically move, and I did in January, I had to enlist help to get it done because there's no way. And I live upstairs too. So move all your furniture and everything. And so I felt very fortunate to have the friends to do that. They came out and even helped me pack. So
So
I mean that's great.
it's useful to have friends in your older age when you
Yeah.
could use some help.
Well, yes, I lost my last husband um, to he had colon cancer, and he they were given 90 days in the beginning. He made about a year and a half or a year and 3 months, and it was a blessing to have hospice and all of them to support me during that time. But you also go through a period of adjusting after he's gone. Even if you have these long talks about, well, you got to do this again, you got to do that again. I have to feel like I want to do that again. And this interview, which Bonnie suggested I do, would show people that I'm still alive and that I want to do things. And I do. I think you need to give back to the people who helped you and others. And if everybody was that way, I think the world would be a whole lot better.
Hmm. Very nice thoughts. Well, very nice talking with you, Nancy Holmes. And do we have your permission to
Maybe I'll meet you someday. I want to come down and see Bonnie. I have not seen
say?
her home
Well,
yet
good. Well, I'd like to meet you then.
because
And
I went through some health issues and they're getting better. So
oh, good.
yeah,
And do we have your permission to put this on Everyone Has a Story?
sure. I'm not
Right.
sure if I have a lot of a story, but it is fun.
Well, it's the story of your life, some,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah, I worked on the King's plane for Boeing too, and I was not allowed on the plane because I was a woman.
crazy.
Oh,
Times
there's a
have
lot of
changed.
crazy stories, but I had to be escorted, but we did do it, and I got the plane built. Once the plane is delivered to the customer, like the King, the only women that were allowed on that plane had to be his wives.
Wow, really?
So, so if I was the boss and I had to come see what the problem was, one of his guards had to take me on the plane.
Which king was this?
King Hussein.
Oh, King Hussein. That's a Jordan?
Well, it was a 747 airplane that we were doing rework on, rebuilding it, and then I don't know if you know who Boy George was.
Yeah.
Well, we built a plane for him too, and it had huge big murals on the walls in the bulkheads in London and New York and different spaces, and it was an interesting airplane too. But planes were built for different reasons, and so customers were always right. But after a while, the airplanes were taken to Texas for modifications because that was their feature,
Uh-huh.
and so on. It's fun. And then on the flight line, I was the only woman for like a long time. There was no bathrooms either. So if I had to go to the bathroom, I had to walk into the main building or have the guys stand by clean out the toilet, area, the trailer, and stand guard so I could go to the bathroom even.
Wow.
It was fun.
Oh,
And then guys thought I was their boss. Some didn't want me to be there. Some thought I was okay, because they didn't want to work for a woman. That was part of mine. And some guys would come out on the fields trying to find information out, and they needed to talk to me, and they come in and said, "Can I help?" I talked to them and says, "Can I help you?" He said, "Oh, I'm looking for somebody." I said, "Well, let me know who it is. I can help you." And they said, "Oh, I'll go look for them." Half hour later, they come back. I guess I need to talk to you. But
okay.
I mean, that's stuff that happens. But the decision I made about doing that was if I was going to be upset because there was no bathroom out there for me, I would, I was out there all the time. I had to live with that commitment and walk into the building, or I didn't need to be there because, you know, later on, when there were more women, they did put a bathroom out there, but there was only one bathroom, and there were 12 men's bathrooms. So,
Wow.
but I mean, and we still got the planes done, and so it was interesting. I loved being on the flight line, making the
Well,
airplanes fly.
what does it mean being on the flight line?
The flight line is where they test and get the airplane. Before you can deliver an airplane, they have to be certified that they're airworthy. And so there's a series of tests and that you have to perform with the plane in the air and on the ground.
Hmm.
And that's part of what flight test does. And flight test also puts in the new updates of whatever they have to update and make sure that the plane will fly right. So when the plane goes out and is going to be delivered, if the plane continues and goes down to SeaTac or wherever they want it to go, the plane is acceptable. If the plane is not acceptable, they turn around and land again, and we have to fix whatever it is. And a lot of times, what is wrong is something we never touched. But
Hmm.
because we touched something on the other side, it affected the other side too.
Hmm.
And so it had to be worked out. And today's airplanes, most people really don't realize how much safety is put into how they design a plane,
I
um,
bet. Yeah.
particularly for electrical portions, which is what my specialty was.
Hmm.
They have redundant systems. In other words, they have the same system on the right side and on the left side. So if the left side fails, the right side can do the same job.
Hmm.
And it makes it more airworthy. To me, it's more safe. Because I mean, there's always going to be something that goes wrong on something after you have so many miles or hours on the plane, and they charge hours of flight for an airplane.
Hmm.
You know, like we do miles on the floor on the ground for a car.
And hours in the air. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you probably have enough for another story, another interview sometime. Maybe
Oh, okay,
me or
sure.
Bonnie or somebody else will interview a
Yeah,
second time. But thanks so much for talking with us,
yeah.
and I wish you well. And I'll send you a link, and I'll send it to Bonnie too, to you
Okay,
the
did you
interview.
like what we talked about?
Yeah, I think you're a wonderful lady. I think you show somebody that can have a positive attitude, can get ahead in life with the tactics you used in life that women have been discriminated against, but you got to hang in there and not quit. And
I like adventure too. I've done bungee jumping and skydiving and all sorts of stuff, and I'd do it again. My body's paying a price for it, but I would do it
really,
again.
okay. Well, good. Well, thanks again. Nice
Yep.
chatting with you, and maybe I'll meet you here in the Santa Barbara area sometime.
I hope so, because I would love to come down. If Bonnie is a go-getter, she likes to go get stuff. It keeps her going. And I've known her that way for since the third grade in school.
Really? Okay, she is quite the go-getter.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. Anyway, talk to you
Okay,
later.
talk to you later.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.